couple of days before. Connie is celebrating her 92nd birthday yesterday. So what a blessing, what a divine opportunity we have to be a part of this celebration. Connie will be bringing the message this morning, if you will, and it would be her reflections on living and practicing the principles of science of mind, her experience as a practitioner, and her life experiences and whatever else Connie likes to share. Before I bring Connie up, I have a couple of commendations that I would like to share, and then there will be a couple of acknowledgments after Connie speaks. The first one I want to read is from the spiritual leader for our Centers for Spiritual Living, Reverend Dr. Sonny Cantrell Smith. And it reads, "Dear Practitioner Connie, on behalf of Centers for Spiritual Living, it is my deepest honor to congratulate you on reaching this extraordinary milestone, 55 years as a licensed practitioner. What a profound legacy of love, service, and spiritual commitment you have created. For over 5 decades, your dedication to the teachings of science of mind and your embodiment of spiritual principles have been a beacon of light, not only for those you have guided and supported directly, but for the entire CSL global community. Your steadfast patience, wisdom, and compassion has touched many lives, reminding us of the infinite potential of spirit working through and as each of us. This moment is a celebration of the many years you have devoted to holding space for healing, transformation, and growth. As an Emerita practitioner, your work continues to inspire, uplift, and remind us that the journey of spiritual practice is an ever-unfolding one, filled with opportunities for deepening our connection to the divine. We honor you today, not only for the number of years you have served, but for how you have served with grace, humility, and an unwavering commitment to truth. You are a living testament to what it means to practice the science of mind teachings with integrity and heart. As you celebrate this beautiful milestone, may you be filled with the joy of knowing that your work has been a lasting and powerful impact. May the years ahead continue to reveal new blessings, deeper insights, and infinite love. With profound gratitude and love, we celebrate you, Connie. Congratulations on 55 years of service. And I will present this to Connie. And we have one other certificate of appreciation and recognition. And this is from our Centers for Spiritual Living Practitioner Council. Dear beloved Connie, on behalf of the Centers for Spiritual Living Practitioner Council, we celebrate and congratulate you on your remarkable 55 years as a licensed Centers for Spiritual Living practitioner. We witnessed your brilliance firsthand when you graced us with your presence as a presenter on the Emerita Practitioner Panel at our annual Centers for Spiritual Living Practitioner Gathering in 2021. Your consciousness had a lasting impact on all fortunate enough to experience you. Your years of service demonstrate your dedication to yourself and to all those you touch and serve. This milestone is a source of immense pride and deep admiration in your practitioner family, a testament to your profound impact on our lives. As we celebrate this momentous milestone and approach your special birthday, remember you are cherished and admired by so many. May this year bring you abundant joy, love, and fulfillment in all areas of your life. Once again, congratulations on your exceptional 55 years as a Centers for Spiritual Living licensed practitioner. We are deeply honored to know you, to learn from you, and to be touched by your presence. May you continue to thrive in your journey of spiritual growth and positively impact the lives of others. And then following Connie's comments, we will have a acknowledgement from Reverend Cindy Harp, who is the president of our Board of Trustees. And then I have a special letter from Connie's son, Richard, that he is sharing with us from South Africa, and that will come after Connie speaks. And so now, without any further yakety yak from me, let us acknowledge and welcome Connie Zeigenbein. Start speaking and I can adjust this.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. Well, I guess I better start with what brought me into this movement. It's been a long time ago, and I've forgotten a lot of things. It's been a step-by-step journey. In fact, I just seem to have put one foot in front of the other, and things get easier as you go along. And to the point where it is so much a part of me, being a member of this church, embracing this philosophy is so much a part of me now. It is me. And it wasn't when I started. I started probably in the 1950s, late 1950s. I got married young. I had my children young. And something in me knew that I was missing out on something in life. I wasn't sure what it was. I knew it was a spiritual connection. I had met 2 or 3 people that had been involved in what was called religious science at the time. And so I had a smidgeling of an idea of what it was about. And I knew that I liked them and I liked what they said. I was particularly interested in their way of looking at medicine. They believed there was a great deal of talk about spiritual healings then. And I had somewhat of an experience because I was working in a gym and I had a lady come into teaching as an exercise instructor. And I had a lady come in that was pretty crippled by arthritis, all stooped over. And being young then, I thought I knew everything. So I said to her, well, you just need some exercise and we're going to do it. I says, we're going to just move a little by little. And pretty soon you're going to be able to move your arms over your head and you're going to be able to bend down and you're going to be able to do all these things. And because life was that simple to me. And so gradually we did that. And she started reaching out in life, doing more things, becoming very happy, more flexible, less pain. And all of a sudden, I felt very humble because I knew that I of myself had done nothing. And I helped her go through a few movements, but there was certainly no power in me. And so that got me thinking. And that led me to a dream. And it was more than a dream. It was a kind of a psychic experience. I dreamed one night that I was standing in a dark room. And this dream is as much alive to me today as it was then. I remember every detail. I was standing in a dark room, and there was a medicine cabinet close by, and the room was kind of ugly, and but in the doorway was some sunlight. And in that room was a little girl with a big head. And I knew that little girl was part of me. but I was observing her. And I looked at her and I gave her a kiss on top of the head. And I said, I can't stay in this dark room. I have to go out into the light. And she said, don't leave me. But I said, I must. I must go out into the light. And I stepped out into this field there was nothing there but light. It was just empty light, but it was bright and it felt good. And that seems to have been the way my life has unfolded, that I have moved forward, step by step, but it's always become more vivid and more beautiful. So getting back to my step into the church and religious science, I saw an ad in the paper, it must have been the January series, and Carlton Whitehead was speaking, and the title of the talk was, Religious Science Looks at Medicine. I thought, this is interesting. And with this experience I'd had, I thought I'd like to hear about that. Well, as many of you have said before, that somehow when you came into these doors, you sat down and you felt at home. I felt at home. I didn't know anything about the philosophy. And I was certainly sure that I was not going to let anyone come near me and put the bite on me to be a church member, because my experience with church had been that everything about church was not fun. And I didn't want any part of a church experience. But after a while, I got to listening, and a little bit more at a time, words began to sink in, and I wanted to find out more about it. And but I couldn't get any answers. They'd say, read this book, take this class, do this, do that, but nobody would give me rules. I was used to rules, that you had to do things a certain way, and I still had some of that old-time religion hanging on, I guess. So anyway, finally, I knew I was going to join, and my husband at the time said, well, why don't you wait? Maybe with your family, your family should join together, and you can do this, and you should do that. And I says, you can do what you want to, but I am joining. So I joined in 1962, and that was about a year after they moved into this building. And gradually my children joined, or came to be a part of the Sunday school classes. And so we became a family in the church. But I also began to realize that my life was changing. And the first thing that came up for me is I took what we would call a prayer therapy class. And I got a slip. We'd get a slip back. It was a Minnesota multiphasic test, I think. Anyway, we get a slip back that would tell us, take different areas of life, and we'd do a special test, and then it'd tell us where we stood in the test. And my slip was on hostility, and it said, needs improvement. And I said, well, I don't need a slip to tell me that. And so Carlton said, why don't you tell us about it? And then I started to cry, because I had been such a peacemaker in the family. And we were so afraid of making noise or or doing things. And my daughter was a teenager by then, and the phone was ringing incessantly, and he didn't like that, and one thing and the other. And the first thing I did when I went home was let the phone ring. And it rang, and it rang, and it rang, and everybody was saying, answer it, answer it. But I didn't answer it. And that was a major change for me. I began to make many changes in my life. My life took on a different pattern, more in keeping with growth and learning to be myself and setting my own standards instead of having someone set them for me. And I began to learn lessons in life one at a time. One of the things was that I had, by this time, I was teaching exercises, and women weren't exercising like they are now. They were afraid of using weights because they were going to get muscles, and they didn't want to look like men. And so teaching them that they could use weights and still look like women was quite a challenge. And I was between jobs, and someone had heard of me, so they came to me and asked me if I would take over this business as a manager that was just starting. Well, I sat there in that business for about a month, and no one came. I'm filled with the energy of what I was going to do and how I was going to it was going to be so wonderful. I was going to use all my talents to help people and so forth. Well, nobody came in. I sat there in an empty gym equipment for a month with nobody coming in. And finally, 3 ladies came in. And I gave them the must-learn sales pitch, just the way it was taught to me, which I didn't really like, because in a way it was a very demeaning speech. It was, see how bad you look, you need us, and you have to sign on the dotted line to have this course so that you could, and at that time it was a very expensive course. You were asking somebody to commit to something. They had no idea what they were committing to. And of course, they walked out of and I was going to sell them. And I was told I had to follow the speech almost verbatim. And they walked out of the office, just completely walked out. I was demoralized. So I went to Carlton as my practitioner, and I told him about it. And he said, when you were talking to these people, what was in your mind? Was it how you could help them, or was it how you could sell the course? And I said, oh, it was how I could sell the course, of course. And he says, don't you think they knew that? We live in the one mind, and that what is known in any one part of the mind is known in all parts of the mind. And that was a giant step for me. And so I stayed in that business for quite a while, and it finally was thriving because I got a divine idea to not sell such an expensive course and to get people to come into the salon. And I put against what my boss had told me to do, I had put an ad in the paper for 10 treatments for $25. Well, in the 50s, this was pretty good. And so all these people came. I couldn't give my sales pitch because all these people showed up and all I had to do was write. And of course, once they got involved, they re-signed and had a thriving business going. And I kept meeting quota after quota, and every time I meet it, it'd be raised. And so I did a lot of treatment. And even though I was doing treatment, I was doing it under stress. And I was also learned that sometimes we can hold things together through our consciousness, but it's not worth it. And I also learned that treatment works because after the success of running a successful operation, the owner decided to replace me because I was doing things that weren't always according to what she wanted done, but that was successful. And when I left there, it failed within 3 months. So consciousness can hold things together, but it's that when the treatment was gone and the affection for the people coming in and not the money was gone, the business didn't last. So this is a common lesson. This is not a unique lesson, but it was a big lesson for me, made a lasting impression. I ultimately divorced and remarried, and many of you know my late husband, Bill Zeigenbein. And we met in church here. And we used to joke that we met in church and were married in a hotel. We were married at the INT conference in Los Angeles, which was where Raymond Charles Barker was the keynote speaker. And so that's a delightful part of my life. And so what has kept me going in all these years, 55 years, is a combination of things. It's seeing the law work when I do, when I recognize it, when I use it. It's seeing my life expand in a greater way. It's seeing that I could, and when I took I finished my practitioner course. I did the first 3 years, that's what they did in RSI. And I got my practitioner license. I finished the course, but I didn't feel ready to serve. I waited a little while because I didn't feel I had straightened my life out completely. And then one day I thought, oh, well, I have something to give. I know I have something to give, and I want to give it. And so by this time, Carlton had gone to Chicago, and Reverend Oscar Pitcock and Arlene Bump she became Arlene Bump after Arlene Pitcock, were the ministers of his church. And I went to Oscar and I said to him, I've got my practitioner's license, and I'm ready to become a practitioner now, so I want to get my license. He said, oh, well, we'll have to think about that. So he met with me in his office, and he was newly here, and he met me in his office, and he decided that yes, I could become a practitioner in his church. So that was a very happy day for me. And that was in December 1969. And I've been working at it ever since. And the thing that inspires me most is the teaching of the church. It's my fellow practitioners. We've had over the years, we haven't had the same practitioners, but they've always been wonderful people. and we gather inspiration from each other. And in truth, we're all practitioners. We use the same principles, but we learn to use the principles and remain in the principles as a practitioner. And we know that prayer works. There is no doubt in my mind that prayer works. And I think that is the greatest teaching of this church, is the ability to use prayer and the way we use it. Because although I know I'm preaching to the choir, I think it needs to be said that we've been given everything there is to have, but we have a choice on how we're going to use it. And it is through our choices that we create our lives. And we can use our choices, and we can change. We can be teachable, and we can expand our horizons to greater good. We can claim greater good. We can know that we are greater people, that we are worthy. And we can help each other to see that. In fact, I have come to believe that it is necessary to speak to people in ways that empower them and to meet them where they are and speak in words, because the ways that empower. Words are very powerful. We know that particularly at this time. We don't use our words to incite riots or to cause problems or simply to gossip, because that's not like us. That isn't what we aim for. We aim for something higher. And if you have that in mind, your lives change automatically, because up through that law of attraction, you pulled into you what you put out. So I think that in saying that, what I am saying is that we make a difference by holding the high watch. It may not seem like it, but we make a difference. And we all are on the same footing. And it's hard to believe that somebody that we just might think we might disapprove of is loved just as much by the universe as someone we do approve of. So because spirit is neutral and good is given to all alike. So those are the ideas, I think, that keep me going. I embody them so fully and completely that it's a part of my life now, and I couldn't be otherwise. I like to use Alexa sometimes in the morning for inspiration, and she said the other morning that if you start out with a single step and you keep putting one foot in front of the other, that the pathway gets easier as you go. And so I say, make your choice, and that the pathway gets easier. It's time.
Would you honor us with a spiritual mind treatment?
Yes. Okay. So in closing, let us open our hearts and our minds to that is already implanted within us, that divine spark that is responsive to our thought, to our needs, and to the not yet known. and know that we are on that path of spiritual enlightenment, and that our way is made clear as we move step by step forward into the light of love, into the light of good. And we know this good is to be recognized to and by all humanity and people everywhere. I give thanks for everything that comes to us in the way of blessings, in the way of learning, and in the way of healing. And I release this word now to the law of mind, knowing that it is acted upon, and we walk freely forward. And together we say, and so it is.
What a wonderful time to be in the presence of wisdom and to embrace the message that has come through this morning. And I would just sum it up by saying, God is all there is, and that no one is outside of the love of God. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I invite Reverend Cindy Harp to share with us some words from our Board of Trustees President. So Reverend Cindy.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like any words that I can say is simply trying to gild the lily. I'd like to just stay in that consciousness, that beautiful consciousness that Connie just presented to us. I asked the board members to give me a little input into what they would like to say to Connie, and one of the first responses I got kind of sums up everything that Connie has said and is. She said, Connie is a person of great stature, earned through years of practicing her spiritual values with an uncommon appearance of ease. Doesn't that kind of sum up the beauty before us? But there's so much more. I would like to thank Connie for the support that she has given to the leadership of this church over the years. Every board, since I've been there at least, has benefited from her positivity, her support, her groundedness, and her love for this teaching. Connie is a constant presence, and her presence is always positive. She always shows up, whatever's going on, with her wisdom, her guidance, her counsel, her humor. And as one of the board members said, please just mention how she dresses to the nines and that she leads by example of how fashion transcends any age. And doesn't she? We always know we're going to see her showing up beautifully dressed, dignified, graceful, loving. And she serves as both an example and a mentor to all of us. Everyone I know says at some point or other, when I grow up, that's what I want to be. So I think it's time we grow up. And Connie inspires us to do just that. She inspires us to be better. Connie, you said that the day that you were granted permission to become a practitioner was a happy day for you. But I have to say, it was a happy day for this spiritual community. Your volunteerism, even after you retire, you continue to volunteer. We can't quit. We can't, because you're our role model. And we love you and we appreciate you. And we thank God for you. So thank you, Connie, for all that you are, for all that you do, for all that you show us, and for continuing to show up. Thank you.
And now I have a letter from Connie's son that I would like to share with you. And it is a little bit long, and it's a due tribute to a mother. And so I made a copy for myself and said, okay, I'll go through this now, see, maybe I can highlight. And everything in this letter is a highlight in itself. So I will just share it as Rich wrote it. My mother is worth celebrating just for her self-discipline. The trait I associate her most strongly because I so admire it. She was responsible for raising me, and as I am her son, and she did emphasize the need for self-discipline in my life. More than that, I believe I saw my mother evolve owing to her discipline. She confronted difficult circumstances many times at an early age, but that discipline of mind and action overcame every challenge. For example, there was a divorce when I was 13. She was a young single mother having to see to my upbringing amidst all of that. Yet her disciplined handling of these challenges helps to explain her long life in relatively good health with wonderful travel and experiences despite the challenges. I believe that long before she read Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of Science of Mind, or became involved in the Science of Mind, which was most of my life, she naturally believed that the truth will set you free because she always looked for it as a way to settle any issue. She certainly disciplined me that way as her son. I associate her strongly not only with looking for truth, but also finding it and helping me to see in crystal clear ways. She is a fine, disciplined thinker, and while full of heart, she is not unscientific in her thinking, or perhaps I can say she has a fundamental discipline of thought. I hold a PhD in geography from Berkeley and worked long to reduce crime in poor communities using scientific methodologies. Yet, I do not believe I am more disciplined or objective in my thinking than she is. Rather, she remains a star icon to me in terms of how to think clearly. I cannot outthink her. Often she runs loops around me with her highly disciplined mind, one born of wonder, questioning, introspection, discipline, and is a willingness to embrace the truth. She is not one to entertain fantasy. Rather, as long as I have known her, right from a toddler, I have always observed a disciplined person who took on the truth and faced it directly, no matter how hard. I think this was her natural gift and reason I and others seek her counsel. It might be the reason she gravitated to Science of Mind. She loves clarity. She is a practitioner and an excellent one, particularly when impacting clarity. When I consult her in that capacity, I always depart clinging to some crystal clear truth that lights my path ahead. So, when I think of my mother, the number one thing that comes to mind as a person whose compassion is founded in helping herself, her family, and others to embrace the light. But this is not only some airy-fairy thing. She is a disciplined thinker and a student who has gleaned great truths. She has both taken wisdom from the wise and gleaned wisdom from her own experience and tested and applied such wisdom. She has studied great thinkers through books, talks, and lectures, and shares what she digested for decades on end. Yet she is not one to pontificate, but rather distills the essential lessons from this massive amount of learning and shares it as she speaks pearls of wisdom in a simple way that all can understand. I admire her for many reasons, but my greatest admiration is there. We might call it seeing the clear light of truth and sharing it with others. With no ego attached, her 60 or 70 years of daily meditations, readings, and ponderings have generated an incredibly wise person. But we must not forget the discipline of doing that. My mother is a disciplined person who set herself free of no small number of worldly challenges by engagement with living and soulful truths of the infinite. She's a highly spiritual person, but not in a loose way. Rather, she has a day after day, year after year, decade after decade, explored the spiritual realm and that which is eternal and truthful. And I believe she is connected often to the one divine mind, the cosmic intelligence, and can share from that experience. She shares living wisdom. When I get lost or confused, I call my mother. I ask for treatment and insight and wisdom, and that she has never failed me. She has been a rock in my world, and I think in many others too. But I would describe her as someone who gathers light, illumination, or intelligence, if you like. And she can share this living light even when facing difficult circumstances herself, owing to her incredible self-discipline. She strongly empowers others by example or by sharing her light. I think that driving toward that light or toward clarity is an incredible gift that she has shared to help me and many others on their way. Her support has been more like than that. I relish to this day. There are many ways to connect, but that kind of spiritual connection is forever. It needs no reminders, reassurances, or to be renewed. It is always there, an eternal light. And I think she focused on gathering wisdom, which she might also call light. And I have no doubt that she is and has a life-giving eternal soul. And he concludes by saying, I love my mother. More than I can share words and feel, there is some eternal light shared between us. Thank you, Rich, for this tribute. Yes. And now it is time for us to participate in the divine flow of circulation. And I invite us to say together our affirmation of abundance. Here we are. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And there are ways on our screen to make your donations to the center. We are a donation-based organization, and we appreciate the generosity of the people that are here in our center and those who continually support us through mailing in your donations. You may also text to give, and you may donate via our website, montereycsl.org/donate. And so with that, we have just a couple of highlights for our community. One is to remember that we're still participating in My Election Intention, And this is 100 Days of Mindful Practice from July 28th to November the 4th. There is still time to join, and you may text to 470-784-0250. It is not too late. This information is in our newsletter. We are also celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. That began September 15th and continues through October the 15th. And it's a commemoration of how the Hispanic communities have influenced and contributed to American society at large. We invite our viewing audience to join us next week as we welcome our guest speaker, Reverend Ikea Parham, whose topic is Putting the Pieces Together. Reverend Ikea will be summing up our September series, which is Pieces into Peace. And she will also share with us from her newest book, Near Me, a Book of Poetry. And we'll have copies here to autograph and available for sign. And it is also Potluck Sunday for those of you who are living close by. So we invite you to join us next week. And we say good morning and God bless you to our family in YouTube and on Facebook. I had a mental blank there for a moment.